Welcome, welcome. We're about to kick off our session for now, which is going to be about product-led growth. I have some amazing panelists here who are going to be joining us. First, we're going to welcome Alfonso Fiore, who we're going to be referring to as Al, who is the Chief Product Officer at Happy Fresh. Then we're going to have Kartik Bhaskaran, who's the Executive Director of Product and Innovation at Boost. And lastly, Avdut, who is going to be referred to as AV during this session, who's the Chief of Growth and Product Evangelist at Netcore and our sponsor of today. So welcome to the stage, guys.
Thank you, Ronan. Thank you for having me.
Hey,
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, AV. So why don't we just kick it off with some very, very quick high-level intro. Let's start with you, Al.
Yeah, thanks, Ronan, and thanks to Tech in Asia and Netcore for this opportunity. So yeah, I'm Al. Alfonso, you can call me Al. I think it's a bit easier to pronounce for everyone. We are all coming from different cultures. And I am the Chief Product Officer at Happy Fresh. I joined just a couple of months ago, so I'm very fresh. Before that, my career in product is mainly developed in Asia, first in Agoda in Thailand, and then I work for Grab and AirAsia from Singapore.
Wow, you've been at some amazing companies, and we're looking forward to hearing you drop your knowledge in today's session. Let's go on to Kartik. Hey, Kartik, what's up?
Hey, Ronan. Thank you. Excited to be here, everyone. So my name is Kartik. I'm the Executive Director for Product and Innovation at Boost Holding. Boost Holding is basically the holding company for all the fintech assets of Axiata Digital. So we have a payment wallet, we have a lending business, and now we're applying for a digital bank license. So exciting times. Prior to this, I was a career consultant with Bain & Company. I've been with them for 10 years. I left them as an associate partner, but a large part of my last 5 years has been working with large conglomerates in the region, helping them through their digital transformation, especially on the product side, which is what kind of drew me to the sector full time. So excited to be here.
That's amazing. And also looking forward to your contribution over the next hour. And then finally, AV. Hey, how's it going today, AV?
Doing good, Ronan. I think just a quick background about me. I've been with Netcore for more than 10 years, currently driving growth for Netcore globally. Netcore is a customer engagement and experience platform that helps mobile apps and websites and B2C brands create an amazing customer experience across all their properties.
Wow, super glad to have you, and thank you for helping to put together today's session. So without further ado, let's jump into the reason why we're all here. So we're going to talk about product-led growth and really what this approach is to app development and the landscape in Asia. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are wondering, what is product-led growth, right? So maybe I want to start by asking each one of you, what is product-led growth? Al, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, so I'm a very visual person, right? So, and often I try to help myself defining things by saying what they are not, right? So I think one clear example of what is not product-led growth is this story that maybe many of us have heard. I don't know if it's apocryphal, so I apologize if it is, but I remember some time ago, many years ago, there was this story around the Apple Watch, right? And they said that engineers were saying that, hey, all the sensors would better fit in the bracelets because they would have actually better range, better pickup. And then marketing just said no, because we want to sell replaceable wristbands, right? So that's a clear example of not product-led growth, right? And I would say another example of non-product-led growth is kind of the so-called quote-unquote feature factory, right? Where you just send a bunch of features that you want product to build. So if I have to kind of, with this basis, with this background, if I have to define what I think is product-led growth, I think is starting from the problem statement, right? So making sure that product is part of the business, is not just let's say a factory, and they are really product managers are really part of defining the problem statement, understanding exactly what are the needs of all the stakeholders. Could be customers, could be middlemen, and if we go deeper with EpiFresh, I can give some clear examples. And so in that way, you kind of ensure that the solution will be kind of a solution where we think of holistically the problem as it is.
Amazing. Thank you. So start with the problem statement. How about you, Kartik? You've been in product and innovation for a long time. What is product-led growth for you?
Yeah, so no, it's interesting to hear Al speak. I think a definition for me is very similar. It's actually putting the customer at the core of what we do. And so for me, product-led growth is really aligning all aspects of your business, being sales, marketing, design, engineering, and whatnot, to really listen to what the customer is saying and think customer first before actually thinking about your job in driving results. And this is, we try to live this every day in our company. I should mention that it's a challenging process because product-led growth, as opposed to marketing-driven growth, just to put it in context on a day-to-day basis, there's always a short-term reward versus a medium to long-term reward, which is what product-led growth gets you. So for us, what we try to do is maintain that balance on a daily basis. We try to avoid the temptation of pursuing a marketing-driven growth just to get a bump up in transactions, get a bump up in customer activity, customer usage. But as Al very eloquently put it, really listen to all stakeholders using our products, make it relevant for them, and get them to actually adopt and drive growth for us, which frankly is more sustainable in a long term. So that's how we think about it.
That's great. That's great. AV, what's your perspective on product-led growth?
Yeah, no, I think I completely agree with Al and Karthik. It's very, very end user focused and using your product essentially to drive acquisition, conversion, retention, right? That's essentially what product-led growth is all about. And a lot of it is to do with your mindset. So how experimentative are you in your mindset is what really product-led growth really is, right? Like very clear examples of some of the brands like LinkedIn, Uber, who do this very well today, right? Like LinkedIn at one point asked a very simple question that where do you work? So that it can essentially connect you to people who are working with you on LinkedIn so that the retention is higher there. Or let's say an Uber, whenever it enters a new country, it would give very high discounts for referring someone and give free discounts of worth as high as $15-20 because the referrals that get them the acquisition are a lot more better than whatever they would get from regular paid campaigns and so on and so forth. So it's really about using product to either retain, to acquire, or to convert. I think that really is what product-led growth is.
Amazing. And as we talk about product-led growth, I'm sitting here looking at my Apple mouse, and I'm just trying to wonder, was this a marketing-led or product-led growth that if you need to charge it, you actually can't use your mouse? So
that's a good question.
It is always a good question. It is always a good question, and I'm sure there's a lot of discussions that happened there in the boardrooms and other rooms to decide what should happen and where. So let's go into a little bit more details, and I want to talk about just the approach that some of you guys took over the past year. We know that we've all gone through a pandemic, and a lot of people staying in, and there's a increase for demand in our products, and obviously mobile app being at the center of probably one of the most resilient transformations that has happened in ever, right? And I think I'll start with HappyFresh because it's it's something that I personally have witnessed, and I like talking to somebody from HappyFresh last year at this time. It takes 4 years to become an overnight success, right? And the pandemic was maybe one of the greatest catalysts for this e-grocery revolution. So Al, I know this this was before that you joined the company, but talk us through, you know, what happened during this time, and just what was the growth drivers and catalysts that you guys adopted during this period.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you. This is definitely not a like a simple question, right? But I would say, first of all, it's a huge honor and a great responsibility for us to kind of play this role in the pandemic, right? You can imagine that, literally, like you said, right? At some point, there were people that were scared. They wanted to have more services at home, and it's amazing that EpiFresh played a role in this situation, right? A positive role, a role that really helped people to feel safer and to get delivered to their needs in the best possible way, right? So for us, obviously, I mean, and this is like kind of product management 101. No matter what's the question, the answer is always it depends, right? That's the product management 101. So it depends, right? Because obviously it was kind of a big strain for us as well, because of course you can imagine that we had to literally, like you said, overnight grow a lot of things in terms of fulfillment, in terms of operation. And I have to say, like, obviously, I mean, I am biased, but I'm super happy to work with the colleagues that I have, right? I mean, they're really you know, experienced, and you can really tell that, you know, they managed to do a fantastic job. That doesn't mean that we have a lot of things to fix, right? We have a lot of things to improve. So we are really hard at work. But yeah, in terms of what that meant in terms of product-led growth, is that obviously we really had to look at our product metrics and listen to the customer, like Kartik was saying, right? And really make sure that we understand what are the pain points. And definitely the tense of the verb is present, it's not past, right? It's something that we are doing and we will continue doing every single day, right? But you can really see, like, for example, we started now we ship not so long ago the ability for customer to have immediate kind of shopping within the app, right? So there is a lot of things that we're doing following customer need that I would categorize as product-led growth.
Very interesting. And Kartik, I think in your space, obviously the wallet space was another you know, a vertical that just saw extreme growth, right? Talk us through how you guys differentiated yourself from the competition. You know, what product had to do differently to really address this navigating through the pandemic and into where we are today, and of course into the future.
No, it's been, I'd just like to start off by saying it's been extremely challenging for, you know, all of our customers and across the world. We see everyone kind of having to really adjust, you know, about how they lived life and now how they have to adjust to the new life, right? So from our end, what we found was, you know, we innovated when we started off. We were the innovators in the market regard to e-wallet services. So we started scan and pay. So we were really predominantly a offline wallet, and that was our strength. So when the pandemic hit, we found that our users were obviously stuck at home. They still, you know, were active and loyal wallet Boost users, but they needed more online use cases. So step one for us was to say, okay, let's figure out which are the, you know, online use cases that are most relevant to our users at the moment. Is it getting groceries, daily essentials, right? The other big avenue was people were sitting at home and really feeling helpless, you know, all our frontline healthcare workers. So we set up this program, which was a donation drive, just to, you know, immediately convert your cash or your loyalty coins into donations. And that in a matter of 5-10 days, we managed to raise $100,000 which went straight to the frontline workers. So that is kind of the innovation on the wallet side that had to take place. But then on the SME space, you know, SMEs have been really hit hard as well. So right. On the lending side, we have to be really thoughtful, because this is a time when people want loans. And, you know, in our experience, when we give, when you do micro lending digitally, the biggest acceptance factor of subsequent transactions is, am I rejected in the first instance? Because in the customer's mind, then you become like any other bank, which never gave them a loan anyway. So you're another digital platform that gives them no loans. So we have to be really thoughtful about how do we think about our credit models, especially during the pandemic. Which aspects of that we're willing to take more risk, which aspects were we willing to take less risk, and we adjusted for that. And actually, we've seen a massive uptake in SME disbursements. which we're actually very, very proud of, because that in turn led to people being employed, which in turn led to a better state of living for all. So yeah, we've had to adjust a lot and pivot a lot in the last 12, 18 months.
Yeah, I love that, deciding who to give the loans to, because I mean, if you look at the traditional banks right now, when they do give loans, right, it's technically the end of the relationship. Now they just wait for the payback to occur.
Right.
But if you look at the models like Ant Financial, for example, they see themselves as different. Once they give the first loan, that's the beginning of the relationship, right?
Exactly.
And so, in a product-driven approach, right, you're going to be nurturing that relationship and growing it over time. So I think that's really great context that you've provided there. And I want to move to the next question here. Like, when we talk about product-led growth, obviously, I think each of you have some kind of brands that you think are at the top of that and what we can learn from it, right? And so AV, right? We mentioned some of the brands earlier, like Apple and but what other brands have you seen successful shift into a product-led growth approach? What brands do you think are really at the top of their product game, and what do you think it took for them to get there?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, Ronan. I think a few very known brands like the likes of an Airbnb or a Dropbox or an Amazon or a Google Pay, I think have really cracked this game pretty well. And I'll maybe give brief examples for each one of them. Please. On how they've really done it, right? Airbnb has cracked the whole review models, so they value reviews more than the booking, because they know if they get a review, they will convert more users, and that's how they use reviews to actually increase conversions on their website or on their app for that matter. Dropbox, we all know the story, how they spread with their whole referral campaign that went viral, and literally their acquisition cost was as high as $233 per user for a $99 product before they started the referral campaign. And after referral campaign, of course, a lot of it was fully organic because of the free usage that they kind of gave, right? So that was using product to actually acquire customers. Amazon Prime, again, is a great example of, Prime actually is cost effective, gives you a lot of things, right? From an OTT platform to actually a e-commerce subscription. But the fact of the matter is, if you take a Prime membership, you'll always order from Amazon, and that's what their real success is. It's not about how much you pay for the membership, but it's about all orders of Prime members get dominated with Amazon as a brand, and their retention on Prime memberships is as high as 90%, which is best in the industry. So that's a great example of using product to actually retain your set of users. And finally, Google Pay, which is similar to what Boost also does this very interesting thing. And wallets have, I think, in general cracked this game, but every time any of my friends actually joins Google Pay, it sends me a notification which says transfer 10 cents to your friend as a welcome gift. Now what it essentially is trying to do is it's trying to tell me that a lot of your contacts are joining the Google Pay network, which is why it makes sense for you to stay on my app and continue using my app. That's the indirect message it's just trying to put across with that subtle message, that it's trying to send, again leading to more retention and more usage, of course. So I think I think those are 3-4 brands who've really cracked it and doing it pretty well.
Yeah, I do like that Google Pay example, because it's the it's the old hack from Gmail, right? Invite 3 friends, and
correct.
And we've also seen that used more recently with Clubhouse, right? As an example. But I'll steer away from comments. Is it working long term or not? Al, sorry. How did you guys successfully implement such product-led strategies in your organizations, and what changes have you had to make in as you've now probably have more of a say in what's being built, you know, and how you maneuvering in this space. And of course, you know, groceries is such a hot topic. How are you staying ahead of the competition?
Yeah, so yeah, again, like many topics, right? But
Yes,
I would
sir.
say, first of all, I hope, I mean, I don't know, maybe my team would disagree with this, but I hope it's not much that I have a say on what is built, but I have a say in the process that we follow, right? So as a chief of product, I believe that my product is the organization that I build, right? Not really the product itself. Of course, if there is something that I believe it's really urgent and we have to tackle, like it happened recently, we kind of go all in, and I'm happy to kind of help and guide. But in general, this is part of product growth, right? I mean, the only way you can scale is by empowering your product managers, right? So that's kind of what I kind of built since I came, right? Which I said is very recent, so it's definitely a work in progress, right? And the way I think about it, because again, as I mentioned, I'm quite visual, right? In the way I understand the world, I always think that I'm playing poker on two tables, right? So on one table, I'm playing with my product managers and my team, and I kind of like elevate them in a sense that I tell them what they should demand, right? They should demand clear problem statement. They should demand to talk to their customers, whoever might they be. Is it a supplier, a supermarket in Malaysia? Go talk to them, of course, online, given the situation. Is it customer? We have a user research team. Let's make sure we talk to them, right? So again, like Kartik was saying, right, start with the customer, right? But then another very interesting and you know, maybe depending on the perspective, even maybe more challenging game that I'm playing is that playing poker on the management and executive table, right? So there, I really have to shift the mindset, right? First of all, you know, focus, right? And this is another, I think, ingredient of product-led growth, right? If you go back to the concept of just build features, right? All features are all good, and we do a lot of like a salad of whatever, right? All together. But if we're thinking about a product-led approach, one thing that I really like to underline and I share with everyone, on both, let's say, tables that I'm playing with, it's kind of this concept of compound interest, right? So I have this image that I use to explain this concept, right? Imagine you're digging for oil. You're not going to dig a pool, right? Digging a pool, you're not going to find oil. So meaning digging a pool is all digging slightly in a different direction, right? I go left, you go right, you go up, I go down. But compound interest and really focus of the product team is really, we are all digging. Everybody has his own tool because we have different products, back end, front end, towards our shoppers partner, our driver partners, to our customers. There is, of course, many products that we build, but we all go in the same direction. And that's the product strategy that I'm responsible for. And then eventually, you know, if the product strategy is correct, and if we have the right tool, if we have the right pickles and axe and whatnot, we'll eventually strike oil, right? That's the way I think about it. And yeah, and so sorry, the point on that kind of executive table is also to explain to the executive that again, you know, it's a mind shift, right? Not features, but problem statement. And you know, being able to be questioned, right? So not just, okay, build this, but you know, you come to the table, you explain your problem statement, you get asked questions, you have to put us in touch with the end customer, whoever he or she may be. And so by playing on those two tables, hopefully the entire product organization kind of gets to the next level. So another thing that I mean, that is obvious, of course, to all of us, but I'd like still to state it, is that I don't think product-led is a switch, right? I mean, at least if it is a switch, I haven't found it yet in my organization. I think it's a process, and we start where we are, and slowly we go to a better place. And I'm sure that however high we fly, there is probably 10x more that we could do and learn as a team.
That's amazing. And I have enough trouble just focusing on when I'm on one table, but hats off to you. You can you move the chips from one table to another? Does that count too?
The fact that I try doesn't mean I'm successful at it.
At least we try, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Kartik, you guys, I mean, you've built this amazing lifestyle, you know, e-wallet, you're getting into SMB loans, like, and I guess on the horizon is a banking license. What do you guys like? What strategies have you guys employed to attract local users? I mean, I can imagine that you're not the only player in the in the market right now. So what have you done to stay competitive?
No, it's a great question, and that's one that challenges us almost every day, right? How do we remain relevant and competitive in this space? So I think just tracking back a little, when we started, we were actually the pioneers in this space, right? So we were the first wallet to launch. So it was on us to actually shift the behavior from, I have cash, I don't need anything else, to what is this product and why do I need it? So we had to do a bit of education. We had to do a little bit of, we had to shift the behavior essentially. And so the conversation amongst the team was always, how do we have a pool of money to spend? How do we, get the best ROI for that capital? And so is it building the brand and talking about the, how our product can enable lives? Or is it through a product experience, and how do we enable that? So what we settled on was actually gamification of the experience. So what we found, so as opposed to just giving, and credit to the marketing team here, as opposed to just giving cashbacks, right? Saying, come use our product, here's cash. We created this program of shake. So you complete your transaction and you shake your mobile a couple of times, and then you get your cash back. And each time the rewards are different. That actually got people, it's a small thing, it's a simple thing, but people were really curious about, what's the extent to which I can get cash back? I'm really curious to try this feature. Let me just complete this transaction and see what it's all about. It generated the buzz we wanted. It helped us target the right segment that we were after. And really, it was extremely successful for us. So that's something that the team is, really, really proud of. But, the other point I'd like to make is the point that I'll raise, which is this tension of, are we there yet? Are we really doing product-led growth? Is something that I would say we're doing a decent job of, but we have so much more to do, right? And one example was, so now, just taking you along the journey, we have instituted this behavior of shake, and people are getting cash. Now, how do you shift this behavior from cash to, loyalty? And so we had to pivot to building a loyalty program. And so the discussion was, listen, guys, people are used to cashbacks. You're going to lose, massive bunch of users, as opposed to the flip side of the argument is, if we have a loyalty program, it's more sustainable in the medium to long term. And so that was a hard decision to take. We took the product-led focus because people were looking for more gamification, looking for more engagement. And we saw that we launched the loyalty program, and we saw 20x growth in our just registered user base for the program in 2 quarters. So we were really proud of that as well. So small wins, but something that we need to do a better job of institutionalizing, and we're learning as we go. So long journey ahead.
I love that. It's like you've gamified the payment experience, right? With this shake, and it almost takes a page out of gaming, where you have loot boxes.
Yeah.
Right. And what am I going to get today? What am I going to get now? And so it's really creating a great experience. And I think just adding to what AB said about the Airbnb, I think there's something that Brian Chesney did, right, in the early stages of when he could still call up customers and find out what their experience was. And then, so if they said, okay, that was like a 4-star experience, and then he would ask them the question, what would make it a 5-star experience, right? And be able to do that and say, okay, if we want to deliver that 5-star experience, this is what we need to do. And then continue to do that and be able to actually get the firsthand product knowledge. But of course, that's not scalable for a CEO and founder to do. But it's amazing what you can do at the early stages to really understand about the customer and the experience that they're trying to deliver, and to take that to actual the customer experience themselves, right? How do we deliver an amazing customer experience? And I think this is probably many ears out there want to hear, what are the best indicators of a successful product-led growth strategy, right? Like, Kartik, like if we talk about the customer experience, what key indicators are you guys measuring to figure out if you are delivering that experience that you want to deliver?
Yeah, no, it's a tough one, right? So especially as you start trying to pivot away, say, you know, what's my MAU, what's my DAU, when you're thinking about a product-led growth, yes, that's kind of the end outcomes. But what are immediate indicators that you can use as you think about you know, improving your product and driving growth, essentially? So we look at you know, usage of our product in great detail, right? Again, there's more we can do, but we focus on drop-off rates. We look at the customer's journey on our application, and we define each journey separately. So there is a scan and pay, for example. You're at an offline location, you know, what's the average time it takes for a customer to complete the transaction, you know, how many customers dropped off, why, et cetera, et cetera. And so that helps us actually identify potential pain points in the experience that we're trying to deliver. That's kind of a primary indicator. We then take that back internally and we say, okay, so once we're doing a product review, we think about, you know, okay, so where are the problems, et cetera, et cetera. And then we take a small panel of customers again, and we see them use it live to try and see, you know, exactly how are they walking through the application, and so that we can contextualize what the problem is and where is it arising from. Because sometimes I think as designers, we sit in our rooms, yes, we are using customer feedback, but we get lost in what we're trying to do. And we lose the sense of, you know, the reality of the customer situation, environment, how is it driving them. And finally, of course, we're on this journey of embedding NPS into our overall product experience. So be it post a transaction, be it on a monthly basis, be it in surveys that we run just to our customer base, that's another measure of indicator that we're trying to deploy to really get a sense of what the experience of using our product is. So a combination of these three things we think should provide us a good starting platform and indicator of, you know, how can we push this concept further.
Great. Al, how about you guys? I mean, in the grocery space, you know, is there a particular feature that will provide better user experience and you know, while they're, you know, shopping on the app? I mean, what you know, give us some of the key indicators that you look at and what you like to do.
Yeah, maybe before that, I just want to make a comment on something Karthik said earlier, which I think is awesome. The shaking thing, it's a fantastic example of O2O, or online to offline, right? And I think that's really super interesting because, you know, you get people on the streets curious. It's a very viral thing. I remember reading about something similar for WeChat, and that was like a early engine of their growth as well. So I think that's amazing. That's a great idea. And anything that can be done to kind of create that kind of buzz, I think it's a fantastic idea. Yeah, in terms of KPIs, right? I think it's like exactly what Karthik said. It's a complex problem, and there are a lot of aspects that we look at, right? Personally, what I very much believe that this is part of obviously of our of the way we design our product and our product teams, right? First and foremost, I try to stay away from so-called vanity metrics, right? Metrics that don't really are connected to the business outcome. At the end of the day, you know, we have to be a sustainable business, right? So we have to make money at the end of the month. And so we really want to try to, as much as possible, to kind of connect ourselves to business connected metrics, right? And also, I think one thing that is very, very important is kind of, there are two more things that I care about. First of all, focus. Again, focus is a big thing for me. I really believe that it's our responsibility as leaders to kind of enable our teams to be as focused as possible. So it's also important not to give them 100 metrics to measure, because it's going to be a bit lost. Like, for example, one of the things that I believe is that, you know, at the end of the quarter, you know, you'll report on a very few selected metrics, right? Because again, there are many reasons why, right? Also because I think in a jungle of metrics, you can always hide, right? So without naming names, one of the companies that I work with, I remember at the end of the quarter, there was a deck of literally over 50 pages for product teams, right? And of course, if your report is so detailed, there's always going to be something that went amazing, right? And then you can hide everything under that carpet and be like, oh, wow, the amount of people that color their hair red, it was out of the sky. It was like, oh, wow, amazing. But, did you actually move the needle on what matter, right? So I tend to kind of want to limit a lot the scope of the KPIs that we give to our teams, right? And then finally, another thing that I really believe a lot is kind of this concept of, there's this book called The Score Takes Care of Itself. And I think in the book, basically the author claims that, think about what your team needs to be successful, right? What are the metrics that matter? And so maybe there are certain metrics that, you think are correlated with the outcome, right? But as a leader, I'm responsible of the business outcome of my team. But I'll give you, again, a practical example, because that's how my brain works, right? I remember watching this content creator on YouTube, and I totally randomly ended up on his maybe first video, or no, actually not first video, sorry, it was kind of 1 year on, right? And he was saying something that really stuck to me. It's really something that I thought is very insightful. And he said, when I got started, I didn't set my eyes or number of followers, because there is nothing I can do to impact that, right? So I thought, what is the KPI that I can impact? And he came up with, number of video published. And so he said, okay, for the next 365 days, I'm going to publish 365 videos. That's the thing I can matter, right? I can impact. And that's what he did. And then he viewers followed. And last point I want to make is this, because I'm super fascinated by psychological, I guess, research, if you want to call it that, or behavioral science, right? Those kind of things are really amazing. And I remember reading this research about, I think it's pretty well known. I'm sure it will resonate with a lot of the audience, right? It was about this professor that decided to A/B test his pottery class, right? And so he divided his pottery class in A and B, and to the A group, he gave as a KPI, as a way to be recognized, to get a grade at the end of the course, build the best pottery, right? Versus to the B group, it was build as many pottery as possible, right? And sure enough, the B group, that was not at all measured against quality, it was measured against quantity, also built the best pottery, because, again, going full circle, if you think about kind of Gladwell, Maxwell, outlier, that kind of stuff, right? Being able to practice 10,000 hours makes you perfect at something. So all those things kind of go over my mind when I set goals, when I set KPI, when I try to build something that I think a framework that our team can use to excel.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And I guess I can't agree with you more when you talk about measuring what matters, right? And also being able to, you can't manage what you're not measuring, right? So AV, right? I'm sure you guys have a lot of amazing insights and things that you can share about the customer experience in 2021. So how did you guys help brands identify areas of focus and create a product that delivers really the ultimate experience that keeps user engaged?
Yeah. And just before Ron and I get to that, maybe I think add to what Karthik and Al said. I think this whole aspect of the ability to really carve out or solve a problem statement and become a part of the user's daily, weekly, or monthly routine, I think is a great way for you to become a product which is habitual for your end users. And which is where I think identifying those core habit loops in your product, and making sure that your users get habitual to it. Like for me, ordering medicines is possibly going to Gojek. But for me, again, ordering clothes would mean going to the City Square Mall in Singapore, and those are my habits, and they are formed basis how brands are interacting with me and giving me that kind of experience. And I think brands should focus on their core habit loops, and then make sure that they revolve everything around that, and make sure that people get habitual to that core habit loop. And keeping this in mind is where Netcore actually brought in a complete product experience platform, a no-code product experience platform, which essentially helps product managers and growth teams do a lot of experiments, be it on their mobile app or on the website in absolutely no-code ways. So you could do a lot of those things on the fly. And just few examples of some of those things are like ability to do relevant interventions within the app, guide users to the right section of the app. So for example, let's say in case of Happy Fresh, if users have ordered more than 5 times in a month, they could be possibly nudged within the app to, let's say, refer a friend or take a Prime membership and save $20 every month. But you can subtly nudge them and guide them to a specific section of the app. Or let's say, even for that matter, doing a complete A/B test in a no-code way without relying on your developers. Like for example, for a gaming brand, we actually solved their day zero retention problem, right? Like the recent AppsFlyer report that came out actually said 40% of the users uninstall the app on day zero. So keeping that problem statement in mind, for the gaming brand, we actually experimented with 2 different home screens and 2 different joining bonuses that were given to every new user who comes. And the joining bonus was $5 straight away for one segment, and $1 for 5 days for another segment. And the intention was to figure out what gets better retention, basically. And all of these things, if you're able to do this in an agile manner, without relying on code releases or app releases, I think that really becomes a great way to empower product teams to do a lot more things, than sticking to maybe one experiment a month or so. So I think, yeah, those are things, Ronan, which we bring onto the table to empower a lot of product and growth teams. And maybe just a small point I missed mentioning earlier. I think one of the ways to be successful in this is to make sure that you're carving out like a 20-25% budget for experiments every year, on newer things that you want to do as product teams every year. I think that really is the key for you to figure out what would work or what would not work, for that matter.
This is great, and thank you for sharing that. I think it's super helpful, and the input from all you guys. The way I see it is all about improving what we like to call the ROX, right? Which is great customer engagement. Doesn't just drive engagement, right? It drives revenue, and at the end of the day, right? This is what we are tasked with: is driving revenue, driving the right engagements. We need to use the right tools to really bridge everything and connect the cross channels together. Doesn't matter, mobile, web, social media, email, SMS, referrals, shake, right? It's all part of, driving this great engagement. And I love that actually we've mentioned the word app so few times, because it's assumed that app is now front and center stage. There is everything else has become kind of peripheral, and the app is the main thing, right? And so when brands are focusing on the ROX, they're basically able to achieve increased conversion rates, increased app purchases, increased retention, right? And if you guys still haven't figured out ROX yet, it's the return on experience, right? And so this is what we are all after here, is driving that return. And so I think as we kind of go into a quick sum up from each of you on some of the points that you discussed, maybe just before we move into whatever time we have left for Q&A, I'd like to hear from each of you is just a quick kind of aha moment or something that you can share with the audience here, maybe in 60 seconds, each of you. Let's start with you, Alfonso, about a principle or a strategy or something that you kind of consistently do as a product-led growth driver.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this before, right? So for me, it's focus, right? And is really giving the opportunity to build for product team to really the opportunity to say no. If you think about that famous pyramid that I would imagine all of us can visualize in front of our eyes, which is like, vision, mission, product strategy, and product roadmap, right? This is where the product roadmap lies. And this is really where, and if you think about it, like the vision, it's kind of an infinite time horizon, versus as we go down the product strategy, the time horizon shorten and shorten, right? Maybe the mission is 10 or 15 years down the road. The product strategy could be 2-3 years down the road, and the product roadmap is just a few months down the road, right? And so for me, focus means that the way the mission can be achieved in so many different ways across so many different paths. And so for me, that product strategy is that tool, that funnel, if you wish, right? That allows us to say, okay, we're going to pursue, at least for the next 6 months, 12 months, we're going to pursue this particular direction, this particular vector of value. That's how I like to call it. And if you think back at the example of the pool and the oil, that's exactly the point of focusing the team so that we can get that compound interest for the work of all the different teams going in a single direction. And that's what leads us to success.
Great. Kartik?
I think in the spirit of defining a very clear problem, I think the big learning for us is when we moved from a demographic way of looking at our customers to a psychographic way. I think this was alluded to before. I think we saw multiple fold returns on everything that we did. And just to bring this to life, a simple task is just populating your catalog for rewards redemption. When we were doing a demographic-based approach, it was a broad brush about what are people shopping on, what does each demographic care about, and then we were populating our list. But then when we did a psychographic approach, we learned so much more about certain brands are not available in certain parts of the region of Malaysia. So we had to really get local, and so that the rewards actually made sense for that population, right? And the customers were much happier for that. So I think in the spirit of, as you think about adopting a product-led growth approach, psychographic way of looking at your customers could yield great dividends.
AV?
Yeah, and for me, it would, if that one word would be help, I think making sure that you're helping the user and solving a genuine problem. And like I said, become a part of his routine. And if you're a part of his routine, it will become a habit. It's very simple, right? I used to go and buy medicines from an offline store at one point. I've ordered it online once because I got a 25% discount. And the aha moment with me for that brand was they send me a message which says your refill order is ready to be shipped to you. And you just have to say yes, and we'll ship it right to your address once again in about 10 days of the first order that I placed. And from that time, my parents don't scold me anymore for not getting medicines on time, right? So I think they solved a genuine problem for me that way.
That's awesome. So let's move to some Q&A, because we have some interesting questions here. It's interesting. We actually talked about marketing-led growth. We talked about product-led growth as a discipline. There's someone who's asking about customer-led growth, and if it's the starting point of a problem statement, should it be about the customer? If it's about the customer, it should be all functions in the organization finding the solutions, in which product team is then the one to develop the product. So basically, like, who is deciding what should be built? Is it you guys, or is it the customer? And who takes ownership of it? Any one of you guys want to take a step? Oh, Mr. Alfonso. Okay, let's go.
I love it. I love it. I think especially what you said in the end, right? And this is a fantastic kind of intro for something that I truly believe in, right? Which is, I'm the first to say that, customer have to be heard, and there's amazing insights in listening to the customer. Like literally this morning I was browsing quickly my LinkedIn, and I saw this super interesting article about the learnings that Amazon got from opening up a series of shop in India. And there were two things that I love, right? I love. The two things were like the kind of what in the West is iconically understood as the search, right? The search icon. in India was like table tennis. Like, what am I going to do with table tennis, right? And so they realized that they had to redesign that icon. And another one was that, again, the cart is not something that it's obvious, right? And I mean, I obviously I hope I don't speak for someone else, but I've been to India many times, and I would argue that that's not part of their daily experience, right? To shop with a cart, right? So they actually change the cart into a shopping bag, right? Which is much more culturally aligned, right? So I think that's super interesting in terms of customer. But there is also the opposite, right? Which is the very famous, you know, if I had asked my customers, I would have built a faster horse kind of thing, right? And for a long time, that was some sort of dichotomy to me, like how come those two things are true at the same time? Because I held very much firm the belief that I have to listen to my customer, but then I know the kind of the iPod moment, the Ford Model T moment, those are not based on customer. And so then finally, in fact, actually quite recently, I understood how to kind of conquer that dichotomy, which is that you listen to customer and listen carefully when it comes to kind of validate your assumption in terms of UI, UX, et cetera. But absolutely 100% strategy has to come from leadership. Nobody can tell you what to build, and nobody can tell you what you're going to go build next, right? So if you ask customers, you're going to build a faster horse, or you're going to build, if you remember that funny picture that Steve Jobs put on the very first presentation of the iPhone with that big phone with the rotary disc. I think there was something like that, right? To poke fun at the idea, right? And then he presented the iPhone, right? The iPod, right? So that to me, that kind of embeds. And the second part of the question, you're absolutely right in the sense that, you know, this is actually something that, you know, when we, before the start of the session, actually, we were discussing a little bit, and that's kind of like very true for me, right? I don't, everything, like I said, it's shades, right? There is no button to turn on product-led anything, right? So you're totally right. That is about coming all together and understanding who can bring what to the table, right? Product has certain weapons, but not others, because marketing has weapons that product doesn't have, and tech has weapon that product doesn't have. And so it's completely, absolutely true that we come very much as a team, and that's very important to be in a position in which in your company you work collaboratively with each other. But to close my answer, I would still not call it customer-led growth, because otherwise you end up with a faster horse.
Wow,
Can I just add on here? This is
sure.
interesting. So the way we think about it, Al, everything that you've said, right? So I think it was Ford when he asked customers, "What can I build for you?" He said, "I want faster horses." They didn't know they wanted a car, right? So typically when we do innovation, and this is my second hat, we have to think long term, and you cannot go and ask a customer, what do you want 3 years down the line that will make your life, you know, easier? They just don't know. So it is our job to actually, and this is where just understanding your customer, the daily habits and routine is helpful. It's our job to figure out, you know, one, do we have an innovative idea that we can test that can be really helpful to them? That's one. Two is, are there models elsewhere in the world that have not, you know, reached this part of the world that we can port that could be relevant to this behavior? So it's not really customer-led when you're thinking long term, right? You understand the customer, but you have to be, and that's the process of innovation. But then on a day-to-day basis, when you're trying to improve your product, this is live feedback. The customers are used to it, they're using it. You have to listen to your customers first. Because products out there, they know what the product does. Now they're talking about experience. You want to give them the best possible experience that they can have on that product, and that's where you listen to them. So that's how just we think about it across innovation and product overall.
Exactly, and it's the experience or the return on experience that we are all trying to drive. And I think just to add to that, I believe that again, I think in a market like China, where you listen to the customers, right, and you actually, well, I don't know if you can dictate product development around the customer in such a fast iteration, but with the ability to iterate on marketing that is customized to what the consumers are talking about in that moment, right? Where it's kind of shifted the paradigm where you market to what is being said, right? And through social media and you know, listening to that. And actually Coke adopted that strategy, which is really, I think really cool. Maybe AV, just to ask, put one of the questions that is out there to you as well. How do you prioritize product development in a pipeline for growth, right? I mean, I'm sure you had a lot of prioritization to do at Netcore. So maybe just a couple, you know, really high level framework that you can share.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, to one of the things which we've done, be it at Netcore or we've seen other B2C brands also adopt to, is having at least a 1 or 2 member team who's focused majorly on growth, you know, and making sure that that has a separate track by itself, you know, so which could be with an intention of experiments, which could be with an intention of, let's say, any new enhancements which are purely keeping in mind, you know, growth as a key factor, apart from anything else. You know, I think that is one part of it that we've seen successfully being done by quite a few brands, and I think that has to a great extent helped in a way. The other framework which we've also seen which helps is having objective based or clear goal based pods, right? Like clear pods within the product team who are of course aligned with developers with a very clear objective of, be it retention, be it adoption, be it any other objective that you would want to run as a product head. Having objective driven pods is possibly the other framework which we've also seen help in a lot of cases. So yeah, those would be my two cents on that.
Great. And I think with that, just a super quick wind up. Alfonso talked about the problem statement, right? Kartik mentioned putting the customer at the center, looking at short-term rewards and long-term rewards. And then finally, AV was talking about acquisition, retention, and conversion, right? And being able to measure that through the funnel. So thank you guys. I've learned so much from all of you. That the questions started to trickle in very late, and well, only if these sessions were 2 hours long and not 1. Thank you all for your time, and thank you for you guys, the guests, and of course a big shout out to Tech in Asia for putting this together.
Thanks Ronan for moderating the session, and Tech in Asia for inviting us, and Netcore for sponsoring. And just a little shout out that as I mentioned while I was speaking, you know, Happy Fresh is growing. So if you're interested to a next step in your career, please have a look at our career website. There's a lot of opportunities there.
I think we're all growing. Have a great day, guys.
Cool. Thanks.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Everyone.